Welcome back, everyone. We are right now about to talk about our finances. And of course, we're talking with Foster Financial. We have Heather Foster here to talk with us much more about it. Heather, we're in a new year. That means some changes are coming, right?
Well, it does. This one's an interesting change, though.
Yeah.
So inherited IRAs. So originally, if you inherited an IRA account, so let's say your parent passed away, your grandparent passed away and left you an IRA, you would have to take a required minimum distribution. Well, in 2019, at the end there, they changed the rules and said anyone that passed away basically after the end of 2019 got a new rule, okay? And that new rule was understood to be that if you received an inherited IRA, that you didn't have to take anything out anymore on a yearly basis, but you had to have the whole entire thing drained and taxed by the 10th year. Okay. So that was the rule. That was what everyone understood it to be. That's how the IRS seemed to write it. But again, these legislation changes that they tend to put in the midnight hours, they don't always put all the detail that they mean or intend to put in there. And this is what we're seeing right now. So here we are 5 years later, okay? They clarified in July of 2024 that if you inherited an IRA account and the person who passed away was required minimum distribution age, then you as well not only have the 10-year rule that you have to have the entire thing cashed out within 10 years, but you also should be taking a required amount every single year along the way. So they did not clarify that. They did not put that in writing, if you will. So there was a lot of confusion going back and forth on this. And finally, the IRS said, okay, we're gonna make this clear. Everyone needs to start taking a required minimum amount out of those inherited IRAs starting in 2025. So this is the year. Now, if you've had it since 2020 and you've not taken an RMD, they're not making you go back because they understand that they did not make that very clear that you were supposed to have done that. So there's no penalties if you've not been taking an RMD. Starting this year, though, if you don't take it, penalty. So penalty is 25% if you don't take it, so it's a pretty hefty penalty. Wow. So if you are someone that inherited an IRA account, basically after 2020 or at the end of 2019 and forward, you need to check how old was the person who passed away. Were they at the age where they had to take a required minimum distribution? And it's not as easy as just what age did that start for most people. It depends. There was a rule change also in 2020 that made RMD age, it was originally 70 and a half. It made it age 72. And then since then, we've had another rule change that makes RMDs start at 73, 74, or 75, depending on what year you're born in. Wow. So it's not as easy as just going, well, if they were 70 and a half when they passed away, I know I need to take an RMD. You need to spot check, were they eligible or were they of the age to require themselves to take an RMD when they passed away? If the answer to that is yes, you need to start taking an RMD in addition to having the entire thing drained out within that 10-year period. That does not apply towards Roth IRAs on the RMD. They still would apply towards the 10-year rule, but you don't have to take an RMD because the initial person who passed away would not have had to have taken a required amount out of a Roth account because there's no RMD rules currently on Roth IRAs. So talk about complexity. In a system that decides to make changes, like I said, these legislation changes at midnight, for them to not clarify for almost, 4.5 years, the rules and what they intend for these things. So understanding that if you don't take this and you were supposed to take it, it's going to get you into a penalty phase. So we don't want to pay 25% penalty for missing an RMD. A lot of people are unaware that this rule changed, if you will, and that this has now been added. So it's pretty big. If you don't get it out of there in 2025, you need to. So talk to an advisor, make sure you understand, do you fall under the rule where you don't have to take it because the person who passed away wasn't yet RMD age, or do you fall under the rule where you have to take a required amount out every single year because they were of the age? So it's kind of like multiple layers. And again, if you inherited an IRA prior to these rule changes, you're still under the old rules, which is a stretch or inherited IRA where you don't have to cash it out within 10 years, but you do have to take an RMD every single year. So we have to go through our entire book, for example, and go, okay, everyone that inherited an IRA since 2020, what was the age of the person who passed away? A lot of advisory firms don't take that time to go through their book and look at that because technically required minimum distributions are not your financial advisor's responsibility. Now, we at our firm, we take that burden on and say, we're going to make sure no one misses this, but not everybody works that way. So make sure that you actually take the time, that burden is on you to verify whether or not you should be taking a required amount out of these inherited IRAs starting this year.
Heather, we know this is a lot of information, and with that, rule not being as clear as it should have been, we know it's important to be able to have folks like you who are able to help out with this financial planning.
Watching legislation is is key to this. You got to watch legislation. You got to watch the tax code changes. In addition to the market changes, we have to watch a little bit of everything.
That's right.
Taking on that burden is extremely important.
Heather, thank you so much as always. You and your team, you guys are great.
Thank you.
All right. Everyone, take a look at your screen right now. Find out much more information about Foster Financial. Go ahead and reach out. If you say, hey, this is something that affects me, I want to be able to learn more, go ahead and reach out. We'll be right back, everyone.